Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Glam Bodybuilding Mountain. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about wrist wraps. And I don't use wrist wraps all the time, but when I'm using heavier sets or when I'm doing higher amounts of volume with my back training, it sometimes becomes necessary. Otherwise my forearms are giving out before my lats do or my back does, right? So there's not much point in training if, like, say you're getting 8 reps with a certain amount of weight when you normally could do 15 if your grip didn't give out, you know? So of course you want to be able to push that back into a deeper level of failure. So some of you guys out there are the Puritans and you'd say, hey, you know, I want my forearms to be the best possible strength, you know, and that sort of thing. And I'd say, well, okay, what I do is I use the best of both worlds. So I'd agree with you to a certain point. I mean, you do want to have strong grip. You do want to have strong forearms or big forearms. You know, forearm development does come a lot from gripping weight. So what I usually do is the first couple sets of back training, I will not use wrist wraps, and then I'll put on the wrist wraps to make sure that my forearm is not impeding my back development or my back growth. So I had somebody ask me in the comments about what type of wrist wrap do I use and what to watch out for, or what have I found works the best when it comes down to choosing the type of wrist wrap you want to use, right? So I'd say usually this is a pretty simple endeavor. Like, a wrist wrap is a wrist wrap, but funny enough, about 1.5 years ago, I bought a pair of wrist wraps which were so horrible that I learned what really to watch out for. Because if you get the wrong type of wrist wrap, you could tweak something, because if that wrist wrap lets go, or if it slips, or if it's not long enough, it can become an issue where all of a sudden you lose one side of the weight and you're still gripped on with the other arm, and therefore, you know, the weight drops and all of a sudden you may tweak something. So for that reason, you do want to make sure that you get the right type of wrist wrap. The one thing you want to make sure is that the wrist wrap is long enough to fit several times around the bar, if not 4 or 5 times. Honestly, 4 or 5 times at least around the bar, as I find is pretty much perfect. I'll show you a clip of the wrist wrap I use and a clip of the length of the wrist wrap that I found to be not so good. And the problem is with this wrist wrap that's not so good is that it was a bit too short. So say you're in the middle of your lift and you're doing some rows, but you notice that you're a little bit off kilter, so you want to let a little slack out on one of the wraps to even up the grip or to even up the exercise. Well, what will happen is that a wrist wrap that isn't long enough may let go of that side, meaning that you not only will slip really fast, but you will not have enough wrist wrap itself to hold on to the weight as you let it go. So then of course you drop the weight, or you lose the weight on one side and then tweak your back. In worst case scenario, you'll get a severe injury, right? So I found with this wrist wrap, this actually happened to me. I went to readjust and then the wrap let go, and basically I had to catch it last minute and it almost tweaked my back. So I was lucky that I wasn't using a lot of weight, but I learned the hard way that this wrist wrap was absolute garbage. So as you can see here, I have 2 wrist wraps. One are the Grizzly wraps, and this is another brand that I won't mention because I'm going to slander them a little bit and I don't want to get in trouble. But anyway, the bottom line is that this wrap is made of material, a canvas or nylon or whatever, so it's extremely strong. So it's a pretty good wrap. Like, I've used a lot of wrist wraps like this in the past, but I found that leather wraps are better because of a few reasons. One is that they stretch, so they don't have a tendency to tear instantly as much as these ones do. I find they fray a little bit over time, although they're still pretty sturdy, but they do fray. And this wrap, as you can see, like, I've matched them up at the end right here. And the Grizzly wrap is a little bit longer, not much, but it's amazing how just this little bit extra of length, how much of a difference it makes for the weight not slipping off. So say I have my wrist straps tied around a bar. Sometimes I need to adjust the length of the wrap, or at least adjust my grip on the bar. And this gives me a little bit of extra safety that I don't lose my grip altogether, because I can let out a little bit of slack on the wrap as I let the bar hang and I don't lose it. But where I did this with this wrap and then boom, it just let go right away and just slipped right off the bar. And then basically I had to drop the weight, right? Which can be a bit of a risk for an injury. Now, the other thing is, this wrap is only, you know, about 1 inch or so longer. But the thing is that because this leather wrap can stretch, it actually is equivalent to probably much longer than ½ an inch longer. You know what I'm saying? Because it does stretch where this one does not stretch. So that's the advantage of the leather wraps. I find that they're much better. I like them more. I find they're pretty sturdy, and I find that I get a better grip on the bar too, because this leather also grips the bar much better, where the canvas has a tendency to slip. So Yeah, that's why I usually go with this type of wrap. I'll put a link in the description if you want to get the Grizzly wrap, but I'm not sponsored by them or any of that kind of stuff, but I do use these wraps quite a bit. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you're using the wrap properly, where you are gripping the wrap under the bar and basically, how do I describe this? You wrap the wrap in the opposite way that the bar would roll, right? So if the bar naturally rolls out of your grip like this, you don't want that to be also in alignment with the wrap, you know what I'm saying? So basically your grip opening isn't unraveling the wrap. I don't know, I'll show you right now. Okay, so right here I have my Grizzly wrist wraps, right? So one thing that people don't do, or they do wrong, is they put the wrist wrap over the bar like this. Now you can see that the wrist wrap is hanging underneath, like an underneath sort of grip. I don't know, how do you describe this, right? But if I put this wrap on here and roll it around, when I pick up the bar and I just let it hang, it'll roll out. But if I put the wrist wrap underneath the bar like this and tighten it like a motorcycle, then if I let it hang, it stays. So that's the one thing you don't want to make a mistake with, right? Use the wrist wrap properly. The other thing is you want to make sure that this part is the same. Like you see this part of the wrap is across the palm like this, across the palm like this. Now it doesn't matter if it's the other way, but you just want to make sure they're both exactly the same so you're not getting a different amount of connection on each side. You'll be a bit skewed or off kilter, right? So that's how I use these wrist wraps. It is basically, I'm not using it, this is just lightweight of course, so don't make fun of me for just using this on 65 pounds. But I just tighten it up, both sides, just make sure it's even. And there you go, that's simple, see? So I don't have to make it complicated. There you go. So the primary thing I would recommend is a leather wrap that's long enough so that you can wrap several times around the bar to make sure that you're not slipping. The nylon wrap, especially if you go with a cheaper nylon wrap made by somebody in a company that doesn't know what they're doing, I don't know, and the wrap is smaller or shorter, you are risking injury or risking the wrap letting go, which is definitely not what you want, because you want to depend on that thing not to tear on you all of a sudden or snap, right? The other thing you want to make sure that you do is when you start to see the wrap start to fray on one side or it starts to get worn out, you want to replace it, because again, you don't want to trust that thing and then all of a sudden it let go on you when you're using heavy weight. And again, you can get an injury from this or a muscle tear or whatever. So you want to make sure that the wrap is not having any sort of fraying going on. If that happens, definitely replace the wrap altogether and don't use it anymore. So that's what I'd recommend with wrist wraps, is to make sure that you not only use them correctly, but at the same time, make sure that there's plenty of length and the right material. And then therefore you will have a better ability to train harder, train longer, get more back or trap training or whatever it is you're looking to use the wrap for. Maybe it's deadlifts, but you're not necessarily risking your health in the process, right? If you have the wrong equipment, you can run into some problems. So yeah, I hope this helps you out. I know it's a simple sort of concept, simple video, but somebody did ask me about this, so I thought I would answer it. And yeah, I hope this helps you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalglambodybuilding.com, and thanks to the patient supporters, and take care for now. Mountain.